Welcome, everybody. This is the Multimedia Men podcast interview series. Oh, my goodness. I'm Bryan Kluger, and I'm joined by the host with the most, the man who I love to make music with, be in films with, box, and go be barflies at our local pub with Preston Barta. What's up, man?
Howdy. It's going well. How are you?
Oh, yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. We have a great guest on the show today that we're looking forward to talk to. He has been in over 75 films. He has 4 platinum albums. And his name is Frank Stallone. Yes, Sylvester Stallone's brother, which I would imagine through a lot of his life, he's been called Sylvester Stallone's brother. But no, he is an amazing musician. He has top of the chart songs, been in so many great roles in films. Like that guy does it all, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Tombstone was a big part of my household. Right now, I'm in love with Savage Harbor. So like,
Yes.
there's just like you can pick from all these different corners, and there's just so much to get out of. But he's above all, like he's just a really great storyteller.
He is. He is. And his new documentary, which is out now, it is called Stallone, Frank,
Right.
that is,
Yeah.
directed by a local Texas guy. You should see this documentary. It's a quick, like 70, 75 minutes. It's energetic. It's amazing. And it has an amazing set of interviews from the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Billy Zane, Sylvester, tons of people. But yes, Frank is joining us on the show today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Such a good guy.
So here he is, Frank. We have to start at the very beginning. Where did it all start for you, Frank, in music? Was it something you heard on the radio? Was it a record your parents gave you? Where did it all begin?
And there were just some records there. I guess they were probably 78s or LPs. And I started playing and the radio was on. It was just a bunch of stuff. And I just started singing along with it. And I go, And then all of a sudden my relatives who were in the other room looked over and go, oh, look at Frankie sing. They're all Italian accents, look at Frankie sing. And then all of a sudden I said, well, okay, this sounds like fun and also getting some attention at it. So that's kind of how it started. It was just, it's hard to, it was totally organic, put it that way. It wasn't like I went to music school. I think I took one piano lesson. I was like horrible.
And what was the first instrument you picked up? And do you remember the first song you played on it?
Probably guitar. Well, I didn't know how to play, but there was a guitar around the house. So I just held it around my neck like Elvis Presley and just, or a broom or whatever was around, ukulele, anything that was around. But it was not, as you would call, a musical household. We did have a piano, but I think my mother took piano lessons or something. But it was a non-musical family for sure.
Non-musical family. So you brought the music in, and your voice is so like angelic. Was there a moment that you remember when you were singing, whether it was in front of people or by yourself, where you're like, hey, I'm pretty good at this?
Well, that started pre-Beatles. So that started when they had what they would call nowadays doo-wop groups, like right behind you, that stuff. And so we would sing, and because it was before the advent of like the British invasion. So most groups that were out were just singing, singing groups. The Four Seasons, which, were not my favorite group, but I loved the Platters and stuff like that, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. And that was kind of what was going on until the British invasion. Now you saw these cool guys up there playing guitars and bass, and said, okay, that's it. But the first person that influenced me the most was Elvis Presley, for sure.
Do you remember particularly what song? And was it like?
Yeah, I remember exactly. It was the first time he was on Ed Sullivan. That was a big, big, big thing. You have to understand, people are going, where's this guy from? It's like Martian, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, before everyone was like just standing there singing hello. And all of a sudden this guy is like jumping all around. He's got long hair, he's got long sideburns. He's like from South, talks like that. And it was almost like when the Beatles did Ed Sullivan the first time, there was a buildup. There was an underground swelling. So I remember watching it in Washington, D.C. on Missouri Avenue, my Aunt Nancy's, my late Aunt Nancy's house. And everyone was there. Because, you know, in the Italian tradition, Sunday, we go to someone's house and just stuff our faces and act obnoxious, you know, whatever comes to being. And they just sat around the TV. Remember, TVs were small. We thought they were big. If they were 12 inches across, that was a big screen, like something big, maybe even 14 inches. And he came on. I remember sitting on the floor with my cousin Eddie and my cousin Diane. My mouth was just like, I thought this was the coolest thing I ever saw, because I was really into that stuff. Like, you know, James Dean, Sal Mineo, you know, what they call now motorcycle boots, but in those days they were called engineer boots, you know, with the strap and the steel toe. So I was totally into that stuff. I remember in church one day, this guy walked in. I'll still remember his name. I think it was Mac Weldon or something like that. And man, he was standing in the back of church. He had like a motorcycle jacket on, and he had big greasy hair like Elvis Presley and sideburns. I remember he was like sweating, but he had like a t-shirt on with a real motorcycle jacket. This is 1956. And people thought, I mean, people were like, their eyes were like, I mean, it was like, people didn't look like that. People look like Pat Boone. You know, people didn't look. So it was interesting. It was just, so I was really into that type culture, even though I was only 6 years old, you know.
What was it like to be plugged into that culture? Because when I talked to my dad with Saturday Night Fever,
Yeah.
he's like, I remember everybody dressed up like John Travolta when that movie came
Yeah,
out. When Urban
exactly.
Cowboy came out, they dressed up like cowboys. And now we don't really see too much of that. But
No, because I think people, I think film was a real outreach to people, which is now people sit at home and they watch, you know, old movies and stuff like that. But, you know, those were iconic. I mean, when Rocky came out, all of a sudden everyone started working out, you know.
yeah.
Guys would come to you, hey, I drank a bunch of raw eggs. I said, well, you're a moron, but that's okay. It's a movie. Like, yeah, whatever. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, but people started working out, running around, stuff like that. When James Dean came out, Rebel Without a Cause, everyone bought those red bomber jackets. It was just, you know, certain people had that thing. John Wayne had that it factor. And Elvis totally had the it factor. And it's something that's intangible. You know, I don't know what the hell it is. I mean, some people have that thing where you just cannot stop looking at them on screen. Beatles had that, you know. Michael Jackson had it, but not, you know, not quite the same. Because Elvis was also a movie star too, as was Frank Sinatra, you know, as was John Wayne. So it's a little different when you're a double-edged sword, you know, when you're also a huge singer and a movie star.
Right. So were you more into like the theatrics, how those particular artists like broke, like what you're saying with Elvis, like he kind of like screwed up people's radar from how he was interacting with the audience or presenting himself versus somebody who may be like breaking ground lyrically, like Bob Dylan, who's speaking truth.
Yeah. No, he definitely put the scramble in the scrambling. Elvis. I mean, because there was no one that looked like him that we saw. I mean, there were no singers that looked like him. Right after, of course, you had Eddie Cochran close by. You had, you know, Bill Haley, but Bill Haley was an older guy, even though his records were great. And he was a little before Elvis. Bill Haley and the Comets were a little before Elvis. Little Richard was right around the time. So they were kind of there because Elvis, remember, lived in Memphis, which is totally different from Nashville. Nashville's country, Memphis is black. Memphis is R&B, blues, Beale Street. So Elvis came from that poor Southern, no, he's from Mississippi, but he came from the black era. And that's how the black dudes dressed then. Like he'd wear pink pants with all these I mean, that's how the brothers dressed in those days, and that's how he dressed. And the sideburns, because truck drivers wore sideburns and long, greasy hair. So he was a potpourri of that. So he was not country at all, even though he was Southern, but he wasn't country. You know, and it's like Frank Sinatra. Nobody looked like him. He was a skinny guy with big cheekbones, like almost looked like he was starving to death, with this great voice, and women went ape over him, you know.
Yeah.
So, but we're not, and you know what's funny? Every one of them were turned down by every record company in the world. Everyone. So what's that say about the brain trust of a lot of these record companies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know until you know.
No, you don't. You don't know until you know.
And so you've had 4 platinum albums. You've been in over 75 movies. You've done TV shows. You're like this jack of all trades, musician, composer, singer, actor. And then this director comes by, Derek Wayne Johnson, and presents to you. We're making, huh?
He's a Texan, by the way.
Yes, he is. He is. He presents you. He's like, hey, we've got to do this story on you. How did this, what was that spark? How did y'all meet? Because I believe Derek was a fan of the Rocky series and Alvin and whatnot. Yeah. But how did y'all meet?
Well, we met at a club. I was with a friend of mine, Mike, and we went to a place called Pearls on Sunset. And he goes, yeah, this other guy's going to do the Tommy Morrison story, the boxer, the guy that was in Rocky V, and here's the director. I didn't know much about him. And I met him. He was a very, very nice guy. And he had just done a movie about John Avildsen, who directed Rocky, called King of the Underdogs. So he was kind of picking my brain. We started talking and this and that. And, you know, it's one of those things, you know, guys hanging out, drinking, just, you know, talking. And we kind of stayed in touch. And then one day he approached me and he said, I know it's going to sound weird, but we want to do a documentary on you. And now I've had a lot of sand pounded, you know where, since I've been out here. Okay. So I've had everything said to me that could be said. And I said, okay, whatever. You know, I mean, I wanted to be nice. I said, yeah, okay, whatever. 69 years old, like, who really gives a crap about me at this point? And then I just forgot about it. I figured, well, it was just a whimsical thing. Next thing I know, okay, we're gonna start on this thing. I go, are you serious, really? And I thought it was gonna be one of these things that would be like a 15-minute short. And I said, okay. I said, I'll give you my Rolodex. I'll let you, everyone that I know in show business over the many, many years that are friends that most likely seen me play, go at it. So I wasn't in, so to dispel the theory, I was not the one that said, hey, you know what? My career's kind of not really doing good. Let's do a documentary. That'll boost my career. No, it wasn't like that. They came to me. So I gave them the names to everybody. They went out and did the interviews. I was not privy to any of the interviews. I really didn't want to be, because I figured, you know what, if we're going to go for it, let's go for it. Let's get an honest opinion of what's happening. And they took it from there. There are a few people that didn't do it that I was kind of disappointed. They, for some reason, couldn't do it. One was Mickey Rourke, which I would have loved him to do it because we did Barfly together. I would have loved Val Kilmer, but he was not well, so he wasn't able to. Maybe Carl Weathers, and he was disposed somewhere, couldn't do it. But other than that, I'd say probably 99% point success as far as everyone asked. So it was very cool.
How did it feel? Did it open you up in a new way to kind of hear other people's opinions about you?
Yeah, when I saw the documentary, remember, I was as clueless as you would be. I had never seen it. I mean, my partner, David Palomeni, who was one of the investors with the company called Visionary, said, okay, they're going to have a rough screening. I've been to a lot of rough screenings. Trust me, rough, a lot. Okay, been with my brother and myself. So I said, okay. So I had my legal pad ready. I was going to redline the hell out of this thing. Nah, I don't like the way my nose looks. Nah, I can't use that. hair's not good that day, you know. So I was ready to sit there with a list and just rip this thing apart. Okay, now this is the key. You know, it's like when a record guy, a record person that has any brains, not like the ones that reject the Beatles. I mean, those type of people, when you hear a song and you just go, oh yeah, that's it's there. It's like when you hear Tears for Fears, Everyone Wants to Save the World. After the first 4 bars, you go, oh yeah, yes sir. Or Every Breath You Take by the Police. There's certain things when you hear it, it's just there. It's perfect. Okay. So I'm not saying my movie's perfect, but so I'm sitting there like this, and we're in the dark, and I'm watching it. And all of a sudden, it's like I transcended into another person. Now I became not Frank Stallone, the guy on the screen. I became a viewer. It's almost like I elevated out of my body and watching this movie. And I'm like intrigued watching this movie, even though it's about me, but I forget it's about me. I'm intrigued listening to everyone else, you know, and it's kind of bringing up stuff like in my life and go, oh, I didn't know that, you know, oh, I didn't know that. And I was extremely moved by certain things. You know, my brother never told me, oh, Frank's as good as I am at what I try. He never said that to me. And a lot of people I thought maybe that wouldn't have kind things to say actually were very kind, because unlike today, guys weren't like, hey, bro, no one hugged each other like, hey, man, no one did that in those days, because we were the product of the World War II war baby generation. So you didn't really spout your emotions like you do now. But now that everyone's like 60 some years old and have had kids and divorces or whatever, you know, people are a little more open with their feelings. So that's what I got.
Yeah.
And very, very.
Watching it, I was very curious about how your relationship has changed with some of these, because it's really special in the movie to see you reconnect with the members of Valentine.
Yeah.
And bringing up maybe people like your brother afterwards, as you said, like you didn't know that he felt that way, and then maybe you call him after and say, wow.
Yeah, I was like, that was big for me, you know. That was big I mean, Arnold,
Yeah,
you know, very famous people. I mean, they didn't have to say anything. They just said, yeah, Frank was always pretty good. I mean, no one there wasn't written a contract, you gotta make Frank look good. You know, I was expecting, Frank was such an obnoxious asshole. No, that's what I was expecting, you know, a lot of people, because I wasn't bad. It was just that, you know, when you're younger, you're full of, like what they say in the military, piss and vinegar. I mean, you want to make it. You have no sense of mortality at all. And that's why fighter pilots are 24, because you have the sense you're out there getting it. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a fireman. I didn't want to be a cop. I didn't want to be a math teacher. I wanted to be a rock and roll star or whatever. I wanted to be in the business. So what was interesting about it is, like, a lot of my band members from the first band, American Tragedy, that's the high school era. They were saying, well, you know, Frank was like kind of the real deal. We were here, you know, meet chicks and stuff, and we're going off to college. I barely got out of high school. So these guys, after high school, they were parents. Okay, you have to go to college. You're going to college. You're doing this. A few guys went into the service. That was it. You know, 1969. That was it. Bingo. And which meant, how serious were they? Or was it just a teenage thing? You know, I mean, it was kind of cool to be in a rock band, you know. So, but I was serious about it because I had nowhere else to go. I mean, I didn't have any education. I wasn't like I was, you know, I was going to get a job like at Yale School of Drama or something like that, you know.
Yeah. I would, you know, hearing you say that, it just reminds me that what I got the most out of the documentary is just how hungry you are for the arts. And that's what's inspiring to me, that you just remain passionate the entire time, no matter how many times you may have got knocked down in life. So I can't help but be curious about, like, right now, like in this time that we're living, this curveball we've been thrown by the pandemic, how do you still stay musically creative through all this?
Well, you know what I do, Preston? I being a songwriter and also doing movies, there is a lot of downtime. Also, being
Yeah.
a songwriter is downtimes because you're writing. So you're not sitting at home writing in front of an audience. You know, a lot of it's like, racking your brain, frustration. Also, I have, this is just a portion, I have thousands of books in my house. I mean, I have, my house is built of books. If I took my books out of my house would probably collapse. You know what I mean? So being that I didn't have the education, I self-educated. I read everything. So I've read everything, and that I was interested in rather. So I deal with it better than most people because, a lot of people in today's generation not being, they don't really read a lot. They're not really interested in anything other than like themselves. I mean, I see women out there in their 30s and they're acting like total buffoons.
Yeah.
And sticking their rear ends out, selfies, acting like a bunch of idiots. I go, this is going to be someone's mother, unfortunately, one day. I mean, when I was coming up, I mean, guys were married at 19 already. I mean, guys were like fighting in Nam already. Girls were, by 24 had 3 kids. You know what I mean? So it was a different working class mentality. It wasn't girls going out, woohoo, woo. I mean, you see it. I mean, the selfie, everyone wants to be famous or acknowledged with no talent. And that's what we're dealing with. But I have stated many times, I did not get into this for the money. I swear to you, I didn't. I wasn't like one of these 12-year-old kids go, oh, wow, man, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to be rich. Because to me, that's a weirdo. I mean, someone like that's like a Mark Cuban, who I don't like anyway. But that's a weirdo type thing, like when you're 12, 13, I want to be rich or I want to be president. That's screwy as far as I'm concerned. At that age, you should be thinking about fun, doing stuff you like. A lot of guys play athletics. A lot of guys do this. I mean, so I didn't get into it for money. If I did, I would have quit 30 years ago. Because for probably the first, 35 years, I didn't make broke. I mean, we made enough to subside. Well, let me put it in perspective. Playing in bands in those days in the 70s, 5-piece band, we'd make $130 a night for the band.
Mm-hmm.
So if you subtract 5 from 130 and take 20% off the top, which is $26, and you're playing 160 minutes of music a night. It's you're not like a hot item for the chicks, okay? You're making like $18 a night, okay? Take home. So you times that times 6. If you made $85 to $90 a week, you were good. I mean, that's like 4 drinks now in a bar, So we didn't do that. We did it. It was a social thing. It was like, we were all in it together because most young musicians didn't have any money. We were all disappointment to our parents in a lot of ways, because everyone wants their son to be a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman. So we were kind of outcast in a way.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're doing that, you're also networking with a lot of people. You must have crossed paths with a lot of people going that way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are there any people that you cross paths with that eventually they became known or that you followed their career?
John Oates,
Mm-hmm.
Daryl Hall, Richie Sambora. Richie was a teenager. He was playing in a bar band called the FM Band. I mean, he was a kid. But I mean, he had the rock and roll vibe though, because he had like the good hair, even though he was a teenager, he was an only child. So his parents doted on him. He had like really better guitars than we did, and he had like black Les Paul customs back then, but he was actually very good. So he was actually, for his age, he was way more advanced as far as a player than I was at his age. And, you saw it happen with Bon Jovi. I mean, he's actually the most talented guy in the group, truth be told. And him and Daryl Hall, John Oates. John Oates and I were in a band together. He was, again, but here's the situation. He's a college kid, him and Daryl, going to Temple University. Again, we're a bunch of like misanthropes, like, and he graduates college. And what did guys do when they graduated college in 1970? Backpack around Europe. There goes the group. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there, holding the bag, then I had to put another group together. But between that time, I was just a folk artist, playing in Greenwich Village, open mic night, just doing whatever guys do.
Right. No, that's great. So in the documentary, it was so wonderful to know that you do great voices and great impressions of people. And so the John Travolta and Sly bit was so amazing. And I guess that's just spending so much time with them, right?
Well, it was like Star Wars. I mean, it was like, that bar scene in Star Wars is like these two iconic guys talking to each other. But in my sick mind, I'm thinking this is Rocky talking to Barbarino from Welcome Back, Kotter, and they're commiserating. So, he's very upset, he's the director, we got a problem with the movie, yeah, swear to God, yeah. John's got these big teeth like this. Yeah, swear to God, yeah. Like, you can't tell if he's mad or not. He's got like this frozen, yeah, what you do with the movie? Yeah, I don't know, we're gonna do something, So these guys are going back and forth, and I'm just like kind of silently cracking up. But when they decided to use my music, I almost had a heart attack. I mean, because remember, I've dealt with 20 some years of constant rejection or acceptance, but right away on the tail end of it comes, the fighter pilot auguring on the tail gunner, you know what I mean? And you got to start again. So I've had to start over again hundreds of times. But even in smaller arenas, you know what I'm talking about? Like, oh, I got this new bass player, this group's gonna be great. Oh, he got his girlfriend pregnant, he can't join the band. There's always something. There was always something. So only when the most reliable person I could think of was myself. So I went out as a solo artist for a long time. And it was acoustic, just playing coffee houses. And I actually kind of liked it. It was a very lonely life. I mean, there was a lot of despair because I was suffering at that time from severe anxiety and panic attacks, which nobody knew what those were. Nobody knew it. No one addressed it. There was nothing out there. Oh, drink some warm milk and you'll be fine. I mean, so I was living through this thing and had to function at the same time, which I did. So when I was on stage, I was fine. So the more I could be on stage, I was fine, and hopefully I grew out of it. But I mean, it was, anybody that suffers from panic attacks or anxiety attacks will tell you it is not fun. Mm-hmm. And millions of people suffer from it. But I didn't know. I thought I was actually losing my mind. I thought I was possessed by like Charles Manson or something. I'm serious. I thought this is someone put a hex on me.
No,
living nightmare.
No, yeah, I know. I get where you're coming from. Mine crept up only when I was driving at some point. So it was really interesting.
Terrifying.
Yeah. But yeah, you grow out of it.
And mine was like 24 hours a day. I mean, I'd look at a girl and all of a sudden, an eye would grow out in front of a forehead. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, that's why my dating life sucked for all those years. Everyone turned into a gargoyle.
So in the doc, in the documentary, they touch on it a little bit, but I've got to ask, how did your relationship start with Howard Stern? Because I know you've been a guest on the show several times, and I remember the boxing match. I remember all of that, but how's your relationship with Stern? How did that come to be?
Well, how it started was I was living out here, and a friend of mine in Philadelphia, Steve Rothberg, goes, oh, you go listen to this guy, Howard Stern. Now, he was only on 3 stations. He was in Washington, New York, and Philadelphia. That's it, And for I don't know how I did it, but I got on the show. Now, this was when he was on 3 stations, and he had a symbol. I mean, really, it was just Robin, Fred, and he, and Gary. That's it. Small, 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 small. So I went on and, just talking. I mean, because I guess I was somewhat famous for the audience he was getting. And it wasn't as dirty like it became, like all that crazy stuff. it was just kind of slapstick, sticky stuff, And then I became like a guest, and I did this Christmas show. I did a few things. I did one show with my mother, so I used to go on a lot, and I thought I was like good friends with them. And then I got sucked into this Geraldo fight, which I did not want to do because I hadn't been in the ring in 12 years. In those days I smoked, and I hadn't been in the ring. I was in fighting shape. And I went in there, and Geraldo was on the speakerphone with Howard on the air talking about that he's training in boxing and he'll fight any celebrity. And then all of a sudden, Andrew Dice Clay was there. Goes, did you ever box? I said, yeah, I used to fight the amateurs. Oh, you got to fight Geraldo. I go, no, I don't. I won't fight Geraldo. And they just kept breaking my balls constantly. Howard would call me, wake me up. Are you going to fight Geraldo? I go, no, I do not want to get up at 5:30 and do road work. I don't want to go back at the gym at 40 years old, getting banged around by these 21-year-old cats and stuff. Oh, you got to do it. It'll be great. We could sell out Nassau Auditorium. I'm going, ooh, okay, Nassau Auditorium. I was broke. But I never had any mentors. I didn't have any people behind me that were smart saying, okay, yeah, we'll play Nassau. Yeah, you can make a few $100,000. I didn't have that anybody around me. So what happened was he just constantly badgering me, waking me up. I said, Howard, when I come to New York, I'm going to strangle you. Okay. So I finally agreed to do it. Oh, it's going to be big, the scrapple and the apple fighting Geraldo. So I started training. The first aid training, I separate a rib. I get caught with a body shot, which anyone that's bruised or separated a rib, it is excruciating pain. I mean, excruciating pain. I mean, if someone went bing on your rib, you'd drop to the ground. I go, okay, now I got 2.5 weeks to get in shape. My legs are like lead. I'm on the track at UCLA. I said, oh, how am I going to do this, man? So the deal I made was I'll wear 10-ounce gloves, no headgear, because I can punch pretty good, and I'll catch him on the chin. The fight will be over, right? I get to New York. My ribs are killing me, and I know I'm not in the shape I should be in. Not 2 weeks, So I get there. My friend Randy Gordon, who I thought was my friend, was the commissioner. Goes, oh, no, you got to wear 16-ounce gloves and headgear. I go, what? So on top of the busted rib, the top of this, I got to wear like a diving helmet with these big gloves. So they're shooting my ribs up with Novocaine and all that stuff like that. So I go and do the fight. Fight's over. I win the fight. Geraldo and I are still friends. As you see, he's in the documentary. Mm-hmm. But it was a huge show for him. It was like the biggest show he had to that point, because it was simulcast on radio and TV at the same time. So when I left the gym on the street, there was 8,000 people out there. Crazy, man. And that was kind of it. And I think I did a show once or twice before, but he's never asked me on, even with my documentary. Hey, can I come on, push it? No. Okay, no problem.
That is it's so fascinating. And you seeing the amount of people that talk so well of you and have all these stories, you probably have some amazing stories with these people yourself. And along your music and film journey, was there any specific just otherworldly advice someone gave to you, whether it be Sinatra or Michael Jackson, that just like their words just kind of stuck with you throughout life?
Frank Sinatra told me once, they came from a different era where they were very professional. You know what I mean? And their way of, they might have been party animals on the outside, but they were very professional when it came to their work. And I've kind of molded myself like that. I've always been, I like being on time. I like being prepared. I don't like sitting there doing sound checks all day, as you saw in my documentary. It's not my favorite thing. I hate it, actually. And but as far as showing up for work and being respectful to your audience, Sinatra said to me, he said, don't ever disrespect your audience. Meaning, they've paid money to come see you play, so you are obligated to do the job. I've seen some artists, they're horrible on stage. They don't engage the audience. They turned their back on the audience. They're taciturn. Yeah, I mean, I walked out on a Bob Dylan concert, and I love Dylan. I thought it was the worst absolute show I've ever seen in my life. And I sat there. These people paid all this money to see Bob Dylan, one of our greatest, songwriters in history. Didn't play one song anyone knew. Stage lights were dark. Didn't talk at all to the audience. Turned his back to the audience. And I had the best seats in the house. I seriously, I really did. I walked out. I was talking to Jim Keltner. I go, can you believe this? What an insult. And I've seen Sinatra, I've seen Dean Martin, I've seen them all. And they all go up there and they play their hits and they have a fun. You're in the entertainment business. That's what they're coming to see. They're not coming to hear your new songs that no one cares about. They're coming to see, I saw Crosby, Stills and Nash. They don't want to hear your new songs. They want to hear Wooden Ships, Four Dead in Ohio, Sweet for Judy Blue Eyes. They don't want to hear a new song you wrote about a belching crane in Ukraine. They don't care, and that's the thing. It's like John Wayne always says, he goes, my luggage arrives 3 days before I do. So you go to see a John Wayne movie, you're going to see a John Wayne movie. Yeah. I said, I guarantee if you did say, okay, we're doing a Dylan tour with all new songs, 4 people would show up.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul McCartney's doing a new tour. He's not playing any Beatles songs, all his new stuff. 5 people would show up.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a good piece of advice that he gave you. And by the way, watching some of your live performances on YouTube, I really, really enjoy the way you engage with your audience. You tell the stories, you tell the background before you go into the song. So there's like a communication between you two. And
it's called the entertainment business.
Yeah.
Called to bring down. I saw a Tori Amos concert. I wanted to jump off a bridge. A girl talked me in this concert. I go, are you kidding me? This is like a Zoloft commercial. I mean, this is like the most boring, self-indulgent thing I've ever seen,
Really, really good. And then I have to ask, in your documentary, they talk about Norm Macdonald a little bit on SNL.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten a chance to get Norm Macdonald back after all these years?
No, I'm a fan. I think he's funny. I think he's crazy as a loon. I think he's funny. I never quite got it. I mean, I never thought it was funny. Everyone else thought, Frank. Yeah. I said, yeah, maybe it's going over my head. I don't get it. So I said, listen, if you're going to make fun of me on your show, let me come on the show and just beat the shit out of you. That was seriously, I did. You know the picture of me behind him for my first album cover?
Yeah.
How he's doing, I wanted to like break through it and just like choke him to death on the thing or something like that, or sucker punch him. I see now that to me is funny.
Yeah. That would be great.
That would be great. Get him in a rear naked chokehold or something. See, to me that's high comedy. Yeah, but they didn't see it that way.
No, that's what. But I'm glad you put that in your documentary. I like that this doc really covered so much of what I guess the public has known of you, but then we also learned so much more about you.
Well, it was everyone has been telling my life story for the last 45 years, but me. No, but the thing is, people tell my life story that have never met me, that have never seen me live. It's assumption. So I believe this movie is based on preconceptions. I mean, oh, well, that's Rocky's brother. Okay, so right there you start with, that's a fictitious person's brother. Yeah. That's like saying, why couldn't I have Superman's brother? That's Frankenstein's son. Yeah, possibly. So you're being compared to a fictitious character, but they know nothing about you. And that's really, to me, really weird. That's like being an authority on something you know nothing about. So that to me was the best whole thing of the show. Whether they like the movie or not, I hope they do. But the whole thing is, at least you're hearing the stories, but I'm not telling the stories. I'm just, me, I'm just kind of in and out, little anecdotes. Everyone else is telling the story. A few reviews go, oh, well, it was a celebration of Frank. I said, okay, what do you, so should everyone hate me in the documentary? Would that make you happy? Ah, Frank sucks. He never could play guitar. He's always out of tune. All the girls hated him. I mean, that would make some people happy. I mean, but the thing was, I didn't tell them what to say. Some of these people hadn't seen him 50 years. So that was their perception. You asked them a question, they gave you an answer. But, I mean, the scariest thing was the first time I showed it to my brother. I said, oh, God, because he didn't like anything. I said, oh, man, this is good. So we go to his house, his screening room, and he's there, his wife, my 3 nieces, the director, and the other guys are sitting there. I'm there, man. Because, of course, you want him to like it, He is who he is. You want him to like the movie. You don't want him to be like when people come up to him, hey, so would you like your brother's movie? Yeah, it's all right. You didn't want that. You want him to go. And he actually really liked the movie. He thought it was funny. His wife thought it was funny. The girls thought it was funny. And I was like, okay, that's the big hurdle. Because he didn't have to do the movie. I was actually uncomfortable asking him to. I said, would you mind doing it? He goes, yeah, I'll do it. I just caught him on the right day. It could have been worse. I didn't do that movie. It could have been that. But and Arnold didn't flinch at all. He goes, sure. Joe Mantegna, Danny Aiello, and I miss Danny. Danny was he was something, boy. I did Hudson Hawk with him. I mean, he was like an old school guy. No one talks like that. Yeah, Frank's like a 5-tool guy, He's like a Damon Runyon character. They don't have that anymore. Russ Reagan, my manager died, my mother died, my first drummer, Mark, died. God, it's just like, Sammy Nestico just died. I said, Christ, if this movie doesn't come out already, no one's going to be alive. It'll be Stallone posthumously, it is. You know what I mean? I want to oversee the movie.
Yeah. And watching you through this movie and some of the guitar stuff that you did there, because I know you're a big guitar player, and I was not privy to how great you are at guitar. Like, I'll put your name up there with Santana and Prince and, all that. So I know you're a big,
on a good day. Yeah.
On a good day. So I know you're a collector of guitars, right? And what's the perfect guitar to you? What do you look for?
I'd say my perfect acoustic guitar is probably my Martin D41 or my D28. And I'd say for electric guitar, for me, because I have somewhat big, I've always loved Les Pauls. Okay. I have Stratocasters and Telecasters, and I just tend to go more for the Gibson electrics for me.
Is it nostalgic sake, or is it just something just a sound you like?
But also sound wise. Okay. Because I mean, I had my first Les Paul in the early. God, I still have that guitar. People go, it's worth $300,000. I go, yeah, I don't think I would sell it though. It would just been cool to have it then. It's like, I have an original. I've had it since it's brand new, original '93 black Bronco that looks like it just came off the showroom floor. When I drive it around, last night I drive around, I'll hear guy next go. And I'm digging it because I'm already sticking to these guys that get the new Bronco.
Right.
Said, yours is a fake Bronco. Mine's a new Bronco. You know what I'm saying? No computers. So I just like the originality of it. I love Les Pauls. I think it's a perfectly designed electric guitar, as do I think a Stratocaster. But I'd play better on a Les Paul. And I use, like these little Vox amps, stuff like that. I use little. I have guitars everywhere. I'm in my bathroom. I do. I swear to God, I have 3 floors. I must have 4 guitars on each floor. Got them in the bathroom, in the bedroom, office, dining room, because I'm one of these like doodlers, like.
Yeah, I feel like the best place to play guitar is in the bathroom. You're sitting there and you're just like.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you're not sick, it's good to play in the bathroom. But I mean, yeah, I like it. Is a funny thing with me. I can't use the restroom without either a book or a guitar. My brother goes, we're on a plane. He goes, oh, here he goes. and I'm carrying my book into the restroom. I said, I can't go to the bathroom without a book. I don't know. It's a weird thing, you know, and, but everyone has their peccadillos, their little things. Like, I love having my guitar in the bathroom. I just sit there, you know, why don't you just sit there and look at the ceiling? I sit there and throw a few riffs on the guitar, do my business and go.
That's the way to do it. Have you ever crossed paths with John Bonamassa or been to Nerdville with his guitar collection?
Oh, I know Joe. Sure. I'm trying to get an interview with him. Yeah. Oh no. Joe is like a savant. He's got a serious guitar collection. I mean, he's got millions and millions of dollars worth of guitars. I mean, that's what he does. He
Right.
works to buy guitars. I mean, he's you know, he grew up in a music store. His father had a music store, so he really is a savant. Like, but he's not a big acoustic guitar guy. I said, Joe, what do you think? He goes, it's not really what I do. Because we were doodling around on mandolins. That's just not his thing. He's an electric guitar guy. He doesn't even like big jazz body guitars. He can play them. I'm sure he has a few, but he is a Stratocaster, Les Paul, Telecaster guy. I mean, he's got a serious collection. I mean, it's worth a lot, you know. And Joe's good, man. Joe's a cool guy. Good guy.
That's good. So I have to ask, what is your most thrilling music experience, both as a performer and as a fan?
Well, I think, career-wise would be Staying Alive, because that basically saved my life. You know, that was the first time I felt I got some form of respect, or you know, other musicians come in to go, hey man, I like those songs. But that was always important to me. Like, again, the money wasn't as important to me, was having other fellow musicians and artists like your work and go, you know. I remember walking out of the premiere of Staying Alive, and I was standing there. Tina Turner goes, man, you got to write some songs for me. Of course, her next album won like 9 Grammys, Private Dancer. I should have taken her up on it. But, or Patti LaBelle, man, I like those songs. So that meant more to me than anything music can buy. And I'd say probably, definitely seeing Sinatra the first time.
Where was that? When was that? Where was that? Where were you?
That was in Las Vegas at the Golden Nugget. Now, I had moved out to California at this point. I didn't have any money. I was my brother's stand-in in Rocky III. So I was getting beat up by him and Mr. T and singing. So it was like a singing heavy bag, right? So he goes, hey, we're going to Vegas to see Sinatra. He didn't really care about Sinatra. That wasn't his thing. I go, are you serious? So his friend Cliff Perlman owned the Golden Nugget. So our booth was there, you know, and I'm there like, and all of a sudden they go, and he just walked out on stage. He didn't do a big fanfare. He just, da-dun, 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 the music up, and he just walked out. I went like, oh God, it's Frank Sinatra, you know. And then years later, when I met him, I was really goofy, because now you have to understand, I've met a lot of famous people, but this, like, Frank Sinatra is like a face I've seen my whole life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That face I've seen since I'm 5 years old. So when I walked up to him, I was like really goofy, you know. I said, do you mind if I get a picture of Mr. Sinatra? He goes, sure, my boy. And I got a picture of him. And man, that was big for me. You know, it was big for me. Elvis, I did see live. I didn't get to meet him. And I've met 3 of the Beatles, unfortunately not John Lennon, my favorite, you know. And, but yeah, those were the 3. I mean, everyone else comes like in between, you know, even though I love the Kinks and the Stones and, you know, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, I like all that stuff. But if you're talking about the 3 influential guys that did it, would be Sinatra, Elvis, and the Beatles for sure.
And that's great. You got to meet a lot of them. Not all.
No, it was a
That's
great story about Frank Sinatra. Nancy, his daughter, calls me up, says, you know, Sammy died, Dad's feeling bad. So he was like reaching out. So she says, so meet us at Trader Vic's. So the old Trader Vic's, I go to Trader Vic's, and it's something out of a movie, man. No, Sinatra was the guy who said, if you're on time, you're late. He'd never late, never late, always 15, 20 minutes early. So, of course, I'm there early. And I come walking in the back room of Trader Vic's. It's a long table. And no one's really there yet. I think Milton Berle was there or something, but it was only maybe about 10 people. And Frank Sinatra's at the end of the table. It's just, you couldn't write this. Pack of Camel non-filter cigarettes, big gun, Dunhill gold lighter, glass of ice, Jack Daniels, and that's it. So up there you go. They go, Daddy, you know Frank. Oh, hi Frank, how are you? We're talking. Then Howard Koch is there, was a famous producer. Frank Jr. was there, Jimmy Darren, Nancy. Blah, 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 blah. So we're talking, and Frank could drink. Now, Frank could drink, and he's drinking. We're carrying conversation, and he's not as, I don't want to say jovial. He's kind of a serious guy, So he goes, Frank, listen, you come on with. So I'm walking Frank Sinatra. Now he doesn't have his hairpiece on. So, but it's like 4 less hairs. I mean, it's not like he's like wearing a Burt Reynolds type thing. So I walk him into the restroom, and the restroom's kind of crowded because there's a bar. He goes, first he goes, hey Frank, let's go sit at the bar. Are you serious? So first we go into the restroom. It's like a small restroom, and behind the door is like those hand blowers.
Mm-hmm.
So Frank, takes a leak and is washing his hands, he's drying his hands. But every time the door opens for someone to come in, it like kind of hits him. He's like drying his hand. I go, they don't even know who it is. They don't even know who it is. I said, this is the most famous guy in the world. There's not one award he hasn't won. He's won Oscars, presidential, everything, right? So we go to the bar and he orders like a Michelob. We're sitting there talking. And I'm just amazed that these young idiots don't even really know who he is. So here's the greatest thing. I'd given him my Billy May album and my Sammy Nestico Big Band album on cassette, right? So all the old timers have fallen asleep, like Milton Berle and Howard Koch. They're like, they're like 90 then. They're like, yeah. So Frank goes, hey kid, let's go hit the town. Now, okay. Now I had my Bronco truck. It was new, that black Bronco I have, right? And Frank Jr. goes, Dad, we should go home. Screw that, we're gonna hit the town. But maybe he was, I don't know, maybe he was losing it. But as you know, in LA, this town closes at 10. In his day, they kept everything open for Frank and Dean. They could go anywhere they wanted, right? So he has my cassettes. He's walking to saying, he goes, all right, I'm going with Cheech, which is Italian for Frank. And he's trying to climb into my Bronco, which was risen a little bit. So here's Frank Sinatra dressed up, trying to get into my Bronco, and his son Frank Jr. is going, Dad, no, we really gotta go home. What the hell with it? We're gonna go check some broads out. We're gonna hit the town, And I couldn't tell him, what am I gonna say? So finally he went, they took him home. But I'm thinking of the Peter O'Toole movie, My Favorite Year. How cool would that been? Me driving around, Frank Sinatra in my raised Bronco, and there's nowhere to go. All right, let's hit this joint over here. But it hasn't been there in 20 years, So it would have been like, hey, let's hit Ciro's or Macombos. They're not there anymore, his hangouts. So that was kind of a fun, interesting evening.
Wow, I wonder what the soundtrack of that night would have been.
Oh God, come fly with me. I don't know what it would have been. But I mean, it would just been really interesting driving around. All right, let's hit that joint down there on Sunset. And, but LA's dead. LA has no nightlife anymore. It never has. It's always sucked out here,
Oh my.
But his era was a whole different era, though. You're talking when Frank, Sammy, Dean, Joey Bishop, and those guys were rolling in town. They owned this town, because they knew everybody in every restaurant. Let's bring the broads over, go over to, Villa Capri and this. And they would just, because Frank didn't go to bed till like 4 a.m. He slept all day. He didn't sleep. I mean, I'm seriously. His sister, wife goes, I don't, Mrs. Sinatra, you say, I don't know how he does it. Guy stays up all night, drinks, smokes, sleeps in the day, and he keeps going.
He's a vampire.
He's a vampire.
Yep.
Italian vampire. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, but that, I mean, those are kind of memories that stick with you, you know? I mean, it's Frank Sinatra. I mean, come on.
I really hope that you make pretty much like this whole conversation. There's so many stories in your documentary where I think you got like 100 movies in you that you can make. I could watch a Richard Linklater type of movie that's heavy on conversation, One Night in Miami kind of thing with.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I could do One Night with Frank.
Yeah, my night with Frank. Yeah.
Let's write the script.
Frank
One Night with Frank. Frank meets Frank. But, you know, I mean, I've seen Ella Fitzgerald. Well, Tony Bennett came to one of my gigs, and he was sitting there the whole thing, like looking at me and writing. He goes, meet me tomorrow for lunch. I was playing a place in New York. So I meet Tony Bennett at lunch, and we were talking, and he's great, you know, and he was giving me pointers. He goes, you know what, that song's good, but you know what, I think this thing would be better for you. It moved. It's from Tony Bennett. He's 95 years old, okay? This was 30 years ago, so it was like 60, no, longer than that. Like he was 63, he was younger than I am. I'm going, wow, there's Tony Bennett. And he wrote the liner notes to my album, my first album, him and Sammy Kahn. I mean, come on. So I've had my liner notes written by Tony Bennett. I've had Frank Sinatra announce me from the stage at the Hollywood Bowl because he heard my new album. I mean, are you kidding me? If I wasn't on a lousy date, that would have been a great night. I sent her home in a cab. I said, out. Because I said, I'm not blowing this, baby. Under the stars with the chairman of the board, and I got some piece of cardboard next to me. So, cardboard cut out. Yeah.
Oh my. And I ask everybody this, I've got to ask you, are there any particular scenes in movies, since you're a purveyor of all the cinema, are there any certain scenes in movies that have always stuck with you, that you wake up and you're just like, oh, this scene just really inspires me to create?
There's a few. One of my favorite movies is John Wayne's Red River. Mm-hmm. The relationship with Montgomery Clift and him in the end, and how he was going to kill him, but he really loved him and he didn't. And of course, Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable. I mean, come on, man. You know. Yeah. Scarlett, as long as there was a chance. You know, I mean, it's Clark Gable. That I feel, and also The Searchers. At the end, when he finally rides up and he grabs Natalie Wood because he was going to kill her because she had been ruined because she'd been captured by Indians. He goes, let's go home, Kathy. Things like that. Yeah. You know, when you get the big tough guy and then you find that sentimental, or like Shane. Come on, man.
Shane.
You know, I mean, Shane. But of course, every Disney movie, the old ones, not the crap now. I mean, come on, 101 Dalmatians, Fantasia, Pinocchio, you know, those are, you know, and now that they're editing now they're censoring them. You're censoring a Walt Disney movie from the 30s, Song of the South.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Zippity doo. So really now, okay. So, I mean, that bugs me because, you know, you're going to censor Gone with the Wind. It's 75 years ago.
Right. No, I agree with you.
Black woman to win the Academy Award. So now you're going to throw that in the toilet. I don't know. It's just the cancel culture thing drives me a little crazy, you know. But I mean, I am a movie lover. I mean, seriously, I could sit home for days and watch movies. I do. I just don't feel like doing anything. And I'll sit back and I'll, you know, sometimes I'll have a glass of wine and I'll watch encore Westerns all day. Hopalong Cassidy, you know, everything. Or Me TV, or American Movie Classics. Like, I mean, there are movies that when they come on, even though I've seen them 100 times, I still watch them. If it's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, anything with Frank Capra, I'm watching. It's Preston Sturgis, I'm watching it. And even though I've seen him in Gone with the Wind, I've probably seen, oh God, but I can't turn away from it because I love Clark Gable, you know. And there's certain Godfather, you can't turn away. Come on, man. How many times you've been sitting there channel surfing and all of a sudden Godfather's on to go? Okay.
Yeah, I've got 2 hours now. I have to sit here 2 hours. It's like that with Kubrick films and Sergio Leone movies with great silence and stuff like that. It's like if that's
Paths of Glory, you can't
yes.
turn that off. You know what I mean? Or stuff like that. You just can't. Or The Killing. Hello.
Yeah.
But I sit there and I watch those things like this. You know, girls going, "Well, can we watch?" No, we cannot. See ya. No, I don't want to watch the Sex in the City. What, you crazy? This is a Frank Capra movie. So, no, those things, Frank Capra, Preston Sturgis, you know, a Giant with Rock Hudson, James Dean, anything with James Dean. You know, I did a movie with Dennis Hopper. You know, Dennis Hopper is in East of Eden, and no, he's in Giant and Rebel.
Yes.
And I asked him something. I said, you know, considering James Dean was dead when Giant and Rebel came out, it's pretty amazing. I mean, he's dead. And I said, do you think he would have been like this was it, Johnny One Note? He goes, absolutely not. No. He was a special cat. He was a tortured guy. Don't get me wrong, but he was a special cat. He would have gone on. He would have been like Brando. He would have gone on to do things. But he also had, you know, like Montgomery Clift. They had that also had destructive piece, that destructive nature, as did Brando. Brando's one of the coolest looking guys in the world. He ended up looking like Jabba the Hutt. You know what I mean? So he had to screw loose somewhere. But there's certain things like Citizen Kane. How can you turn that off? Magnificent Emerson's Touch of Evil. So I am as much of a movie freak as I am a music freak. No, I mean, I thought I should have been the host on AMC, not these yahoos.
Oh, we need a petition for that for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great show, man. These guys don't have any. They never did anything.
Oh, we just gotta we gotta get Frank on our movie podcast just to talk movies. This is great.
Oh, no, I mean, I know. I am seriously all my life. I have watched, like, when I look at one of the greatest scenes with Herbert Marshall talking to Gene Tierney in The Razor's Edge with Tyrone Power, I go, come on, man. First of all, Tyrone Power is like the greatest looking guy in the world, and she's like the best looking chick in the world. You don't get that anymore. You know what I mean? Now you got the guy's better looking than the leading lady. You know what I'm saying? But when you see movies like with Ava Gardner and, oh, come on, man. You don't have that. You know, my brother and I talk about the, yeah, we don't have them like that no more. I said, damn right, you know, because those girls were, I mean, you could just name 20 of them that were amazing looking. You know, I mean, Glenn Ford is a guy that's overlooked. Great. 310 to Yuma is great. So Laura. Yeah. So, I mean, but my move, the documentary, I think it kind of encapsulates a bit who I am. I'm a bit of everything. Yeah. You know, I have ADD. I know I do, because I was the worst student in the world. I have to have it because I couldn't. First day I was in algebra class. I go, why am I even coming? I have no idea what you're talking about. Square, but when am I ever use that? I'm a musician. I gotta know, am I getting $50? When we go, well, if I square that with an isosceles triangle, how much money will I get? So that was useless to me. But I think it kind of, I don't know. I mean, what do you get out of the movie? I think it's a positive movie myself.
No, it is. And I think that what Preston said it earlier is that your passion and love for creating art, film, producing, even boxing the art to that and film, it's you can inject that feeling into your audience, and it makes me excited to do other things in that medium. And just to see your accomplishments over the years, and that's what I got of it. That is one of my favorite docs of the year so far. So
that's so nice of you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love the journey of Far From Over. in this particular documentary, because you know it starts with that very important time in your life, but even like Billy Zane saying like he has so much life left in him, and we believe it because that's what I get out of it. I get how passionate you are, and that's what's inspiring to me. And so I love that they end the film with that song as well, because it just feels like a journey. And so I can't help but wonder like how the meaning of that song has changed for you over these years.
Well, it's kind of, it still is a bit of a struggle, no matter what. I mean, Far From Over is definitely autobiographical, because when I did Staying Alive, finally, when my songs were accepted, my career was basically over. I mean, I was 32 years old. I'd lost all my record deals. No one in Hollywood, no one could have given two craps about who I was and stuff like that. And, thank God, maybe, there's a divine intervention here somewhere, that my brother was directing Staying Alive. There was no way in hell I was going to get a song in sequel to Saturday Night Fever. You got the Bee Gees, who are the greatest. You got Robert Stigwood, who's their manager and also the producer of the movie. And then you got me, some schlepper like me here, trying to hawk my songs. Now, if the Bee Gees wouldn't have stepped aside at that point, I don't know. I mean, because my brother called up, he goes, you got some of the songs? I said, yes, I have a lot of songs, but you rejected everyone. So what are we talking about? He goes, no, you hear them, And for some reason, I think my frustration of my existence at that time kind of maybe rang true with John Travolta's character in Staying Alive. Tony Marino wanted to make it, something of himself. I wanted to finally, after 18, 19 years being in the doldrums, finally break free. Because you remember, John's career was not doing that good before that. His career was actually not doing good at all. And that somewhat brought him back. And then he did okay. And then his back career went into the toilet until Pulp Fiction. So it's interesting. You get a guy like Quentin Tarantino, a nerdy guy that was a fan of everyone. He put my friend Robert Forster, who was a great friend of mine, in Jackie Brown. Guy was nominated for an Academy Award, couldn't get a job. So he does things like that, which proves to me he is a great fan of movies, and he does what he wants. And that's what I think is so cool. I love that he drops some of these old timers in the movie.
Yeah,
I think it makes him happy.
Oh yeah, you could feel that all in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, to me, I think that movie I love that movie.
Me too.
I really love that movie. Yeah, I think he gets it, man. I mean, Hateful Eight. I mean, come on, man. The greatest character ever is Kurt Russell and his stuntman Mike. What's that movie? Death
Proof.
Death Proof.
You don't think that's a sick part for Kurt? Because Kurt is, I know
he
Kurt.
Loved it.
No, but it's such a great part because he's such a sick human being. I mean, see, that's the part I'd love to play. That's why I like playing bad guys. I love playing Ed Bailey in Tombstone. I love playing Eddie in Barfly. The bad guys have more fun because you definitely have a more license to be crazy. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like in pro wrestling, the heels always have the most fun, and they always go out. And I like that when you talk about Tarantino.
It's like Sergeant Slaughter fighting Iron Sheik.
Yeah, no, it's great.
We love those things. So the bad guys always give me the bad guy all the time. My brother goes, I wish I could play more bad guys. I said, well, turn Rocky into a mass killer or something. I don't know. I mean, you get from being too many punches in the head, he like went off the deep end. But I mean, I love doing that stuff. I mean, I don't think I'm a good guy. I just don't look like the good guy. The good guy. It's like Robert Wagner. You know what I mean? I don't have that thing. I don't know why. I wish I did, but I don't have that cuddly thing.
That's good.
Everybody on the dock says different.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I guess we all have like Lee Marvin to me is one of the great bad guys.
He's a great one.
Great.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I mean, so the documentary is just that I am listen, man, I am humbled by it. It's not an ego trip for me. I'm humbled by it. I like it when people, the greatest thing for me is when I get like a Facebook or something like that of someone that I haven't seriously seen or heard from since high school, you know, and now, you know, they're grandmothers. And they just say, my husband and grandkids, and we always sat around and watched that movie. And I remember watching you practice with your band in your garage in the summer when we were the original garage band. We would open the garage and play with my band in the summertime, and all the neighbors would come around, you know, the parents, you know, of course, with their drinks. Hey, those guys, you know. And when that to me, neat, when people homeroom class with them, wow, look at this story. You know, it makes them feel good. I think it makes them feel good in a way to see someone they knew when we were kids make good.
Yeah.
Unless you're a psychopath. I mean, I kind of dig it watching people, you know, do something wonderful. I'm a fan. You imagine how they are. And I'm probably somewhat jaded living in this stupid town for as long as I have, you know.
So the spotlight's on you now. I guess in the vein of your favorite pro wrestler, how can everybody see this amazing doc?
Well, everyone can go to Amazon Prime. They can go to Google Play. They can go to iTunes. And also, people out there, I do have a guitar company called Frank Stallone Guitars, and they can go there, frankstalloneguitars.com. And what we've done, we are procuring guitars from different guitar makers that are really, really reasonably priced, and we guarantee everything 100%. We haven't had one return. We've had, listen, you know, in today's world, like these kids that want to be, they can't afford $5,000 for a guitar. Ours are like 500, but they're as good as a $5,000 guitar. I mean, I play it, you know, I mean, in between my Les Pauls, I do play it. And it's kind of fun being a bit of an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? It's just like, because I'm not really, you know, I wouldn't consider myself, you know, what's his name? The guy from Elon Musk, okay? But it's fun having an instrument. Like I have instruments in my house out that I can't play, but I do play them. Like I have a trumpet. I can't play. But I'll sit there and just walk by and blow a few notes. I figure out it's good for my lungs. I've got harps. I don't know how to play a harp. It's just, maybe it's an ADD thing. It's just, I like being surrounded by instruments. You know, to me, it's very childish, of course, but it's fun, and the life is fun. I like watching Westerns with my old 45s. I mean, that's so stupid. It's like a 9-year-old. I'm watching Hopalong Cassie spinning my own guns like, hey, man, why you know, what's that like? But that's what kids do. But I think when we lose the child part of ourselves, I think we lose a big part of ourselves, because then everything is serious. That's what I love about Mel Brooks. I've sat with Mel. He's still like a kid. He's 90-some years old, but he still thinks. Look at his movies. No one had more fun in this business than him and Carl Reiner or George Burns, who I've met. They loved being in show business. They loved it. And they, even to their grave, they were still goofy, childlike type guys, fans of other people, and nice to everybody. Everybody. George Burns was nice to everybody. I saw him, I said, wait a second, this guy just did 1 hour and 10 minutes. He's 96 years old. He didn't miss a beat. And I went backstage to meet him. I went, oh my God, this is George Burns. And look at his career. He had a resurgence. It's 90. Remember when we did Oh God and all those movies?
Yes.
I mean, talk about a comeback. I think I'm old. Jeez, it's like almost 100 years old and he's got to come back. So there's always hope and belief. And I think my documentary is based on a belief in self, a belief that something can happen, anything can happen. That's one thing beautiful about show business. Look, my brother was an 8 billion to one shot. Here's a guy that was unemployed, kind of slurred and talk. He was kind of muscular type guy. Totally not what they were looking for in the 70s. You know, they were looking for Burt Reynolds, Ryan O'Neal, these guys. They weren't looking for him, but they wanted the script, but they didn't want him. And it was the smartest business move he did. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And then, you know, even what's happened to us, two guys from not, you know, from broken homes, immigrant father and stuff like that, that can happen, that a miracle can happen. Someone upstairs looking down because we were not candidates. We weren't the guys going to Yale Drama School or Northwestern or, you know, USC or something like that, where you'd figure, well, my son's studying film at USC, but he's bartending. Yeah, that's how he ends up doing. So I am very humbled. I'm very blessed. I thank guys like you that take the time out to want to talk to an old song and dance man like me. It makes me feel good. I mean, because, you know, it's been a rough year for everybody. It's been a rough few years. I mean, to this day, I've done 77 movies. I don't have an agent. Walls with gold records, don't have a music agent. It's preconceiving. So I got to do it. I still got to do it myself. I still carry my amp. How you like that? I went to a point when I had 3 roadies. I got to still carry my own amp and my guitar and break down, that's the thing I hate more than anything. You do this great show, gave standing ovation, and all these people are wandering around and you're sitting there breaking down your gear. I did that in high school. So I'm just going to hire someone to do it. I can't do it anymore. My back can't handle it. Too old for that stuff. You know what I mean? But that is a humbling experience. I don't know if a lot of people can do it. If you've been spoiled all these years and all of a sudden now you got to go back to grassroots, some people can't do it. Their ego won't let them do it. I don't care because I enjoy doing it. I love being on stage. I love playing with my guys. So if I look like a schmuck, I don't care. Yeah, you know?
Well, thank you so much, Frank. Thank you so much. This was great.
You know, Bryan, Preston, you guys have been great. And it was wonderful spending all this time with you. And we shall meet again.